Sophists helped develop philosophy by saying that the values everyone believed in were actually created by humans. They changed how people saw the universe by asking new questions about knowledge. Even though later philosophers tried to get rid of the idea of relativism that the Sophists introduced, they couldn't do it completely. In fact, these three great philosophers only appeared because of the questions the Sophists asked. In ancient times, people believed that gods decided everything. But the Sophists helped lay the foundation of philosophy by saying, man is the measure of all things. Sophists, along with tragedy writers, really changed how people in ancient times saw the universe by suggesting that the values people thought came from gods were actually created by humans. The problems in their society, like in politics, religion, and the economy, made it easier for these ideas to spread. Sophia means wisdom, skill, craftsmanship, and knowledge. Plato believed that true knowledge, or episteme, is different from the Sophia that the Sophists talked about. Aristotle thought Sophia was the most important intellectual virtue. Practical knowledge is called phronesis. The Stoic school believed that the ideal virtue, the wise person, is sophos. Pythagoras, however, thought Sophia, which means wisdom, had negative meanings. Back then, everyone wanted to rule society and people. It was something they all desired. In this time of democracy, aristocracy, and class conflicts, people thought the best way to stay innocent was to have political power. In a world ruled by elections, persuading the public and getting elected was how to get power, and it was the Sophists who taught people how to persuade others. So, philosophy, sophistry, and wisdom became the most important parts of politics. Sophists, who said they could train good statesmen anywhere, became really popular. Sophists combined politics and philosophy under the idea of sophistry, and they surprised people by explaining things like morality from this perspective. One good thing the Sophists did was that they argued everyone had the right to be involved in politics. The democratic system actually fit well with how the Sophists thought. Protagoras was the first to say that laws that favored the aristocracy weren't made by gods but by humans. Humans created rules for living and working together so they could survive, and they called these rules laws. Protagoras believed that even though laws weren't divine, they were still mandatory and had to be obeyed because they came from a social contract. However, some Sophists said that laws should only protect the interests of the powerful, and people didn't like that. Protagoras argued that knowledge about gods wasn't reliable, so there was no point in believing in gods. The idea of the social contract, which was presented as an argument against the belief that laws don't come from gods, has been a part of all state philosophies since the 5th century BC. The idea that laws apply to everyone, including rulers, changed how much power rulers had. The desire to rule, to be a despot, and therefore to be wise, were all seen as the same thing. People didn't like the idea of one all-powerful ruler. How a ruler uses their power is a matter of justice and politics. The Greeks believed that having the power to rule meant you could do whatever you wanted. There had to be an understanding of justice based on morality to stop people from abusing their power. However, the Sophists' idea that justice is what is beneficial to the strong came from the belief that there's no real justice in nature, that gods act unfairly, and that they ignore injustice. When talking about justice and righteousness, Sophists always sided with the strong. Callicles said that if the strong dominate in nature, then the strong should also dominate in the human world. To them, the strongest, the best, and the most powerful all meant the same thing. Being strong was good, and being good was strong. The Sophists believed truth is relative, and that no one's opinion is more correct than another's, but some opinions can be better. Instead of focusing on right and wrong, the Sophists suggested testing things out, experimenting, and seeing what worked. In Plato's dialogues, Callicles argues that the wisest and most powerful person is the politician in charge. To avoid being treated unfairly in a country ruled by tyrants, you had to be like the rulers, meaning you had to like what they liked. Plato didn't like that the Sophists thought politics should be based on self-interest. He said that paying government officials and giving the public everything they want isn't good governance. Plato compares sophists to those kinds of statesmen. Plato believed that sophists just wanted to be rich and make connections, that they wanted power so they wouldn't be punished for their crimes, and that they lived unjustly and never faced consequences. The sophists were the founders of political science, and they looked at things from their own unique perspectives. Plato and Aristotle tried to explain why these approaches were wrong, but they got the material for their systematic study from the sophists.